guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am I. 146, coming up on 3 years of every fucking Thursday. Not bad at all. So, sitting out here in this beautiful scene by this lake, and today we're going to get back to the Yoga Sutras. We take a little break, but we're coming back to the yamas, still in the yamas. I keep saying it wrong. It's not yamas. Yamas. Yama, 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 yama. It's actually yamas. Short A. It's very specific. But it's kind of like, I always say Brahman. Brahman. Or Brahman. Or Brahma. But it's Brahman, really. But anyway. Whoa. That wasn't my ass. That was a toad of some sort. Some wet toad with a sprocket. Alright, so anyway. Getting back to the yamas, and we're talking about Brahmacharya this week. Ooh. So this one's pretty loaded, definitely loaded. There's a lot of controversy around it. There's a lot of controversy around the sutras and themselves, and the 8 limbs and the yamas and the niyamas, and these are just for the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, because there's other places in the Upanishads where there's like 10 yamas, and it's a totally different thing. Well, not totally different thing. A lot of them are the same, right? But they're obviously expanded. But so this is just one modality that we're working with here. Stop thinking that there's a truth, and in any of this stuff. It's like everybody is so different, and that's kind of fits into what we're going to talk about today. But the idea here is that originally it was translated, and oftentimes it's talked about as celibacy. Right, and that is an aspect of it. And this is the place where some people get into yoga, and then they're like, get this far, and they're screeching the brakes, and you're like, fuck you, I left Catholicism or whatever the hell it was, because they told me like I couldn't do this or that, and I was gonna go to hell if I'm sinning, and now you're telling me I can't do this stuff. And I want to reiterate that the perspective that we're trying to shift here is not looking at this from a space of should or should not, or don'ts. Like that's how it's oftentimes translated, from a religious perspective, and then it is religious. But these are still spiritual principles then that get adopted by religion, and they make it dogmatic and this black and whiteness, and it's just fucking not. It's just not. None of it's black and white. So, but when you start to shift your perspective into an understanding of, like I talk about when I teach these, is that when you know that you're coming from that place of wholeness and completeness already, this is Brahmacharya really relates, it literally translates to the conduct that is becoming Brahma, becoming of, not becoming, but in a way we can look at it that way, because that's what we're doing, is becoming Brahman, which is not Brahma, the God, Brahman, the ultimate reality, right? Which is a distinction also that's not made. That's not this video, but so. This ultimate reality then is its conduct becoming of so it's basically, if you understood that you were whole and complete and divine at your core, how you would behave, right? So that's why I like the yamas, which is also anyway, I'm like okay. Right use of energy, focusing my energy. So that's what it is. It's actually understanding it as opposed to celibacy. I like the translation of right use of energy, right? And these yamas are a mastery, in that perspective, a mastery over these aspects of life, so that we're not getting ruled by them, and our behavior that we're not even recognizing. It's all about heightening our awareness. That's what this is all about, until you become aware that you are divine at your core. So if you take the knowledge that you are divine at your core and understand that this is how you would behave if you knew that you were whole, healed, and complete. Because that doesn't mean, so let's get back to it. I feel like I'm a little scattered, and I apologize. But when we get back to the understanding of the celibacy, because I want to talk about the sexuality for a bit, because I feel like that's just kind of, you talk about it traditionally, and it's talked about traditionally, that means you don't have sex. And in the 4 stages of Hindu life, oh, what's that? Look, it's a squadron, a murder. It's a murder, a gaggle, a murder, a gaggle. I don't know. So, traditionally, you'd be talking about it in the 4 stages of Hindu life, Brahmacharya is one of them. And it's from whatever, something to 25, probably like 14 to 25 or something like that. And it's a student's life. And it does talk about celibacy, right? So you're not, because it's basically like, no, this is the time where you're learning, you're studying with the guru, you're understanding life, you're understanding this crazy thing that we talk about called life. And instead, we don't have any system like that. We just send them to college and be like, here, and you just fuck your brains out and drop and flunk out of school because you just have, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or the other people just push so fucking hard and it's all they're focused on until they have a mental breakdown, right? So, so this aspect of, when you look at it as right use of energy and we talk about sexuality, there is this aspect of some sort of restraint or understanding that, but it doesn't mean that you would never have sex. When we talk about tantric sexuality, when you understand, I'm not going to go into that, maybe in a whole nother vlog, right? But it's not about not having sex. I will say this, on a general basis, it's because people are so fucking oblivious to why they do anything. They have no clue about why we do anything and where we're using our energy and how we're using it at all. And we have no idea where to search for happiness. We have no idea how to treat others. We have no idea how to not control others and what our bullshit is. So for people like that, the understanding is like, look, don't have fucking sex because you're going to make a fucking chaos in your life. And you're going to be basically not using your energy in the best way possible, in the most productive way possible. When you get into celibacy and understanding it's not black and white, right? Suddenly the church, well, it's a great thing. You'd be like, the church recognizes, oh, we can have our priests become celibate. Then they have no heirs to turn their shit over to. So when they die, we get all the shit, right? And it all goes to the church. It's fucking brilliant, quite frankly, But that doesn't mean that principle is not based on something. It's kind of like the principle of service. You can turn that into freaking slavery, and saying, well, why you're not giving enough, go back to service. That's why these principles can be fucking just completely misused and raped. They can be, that's how we start cults. And I joke about starting a cult, but I would never want to do something in that nature. I do want to start an understanding of people coming together in unity, in that unity consciousness, right? But so anyway, going back to the right use of energy, and because I feel like I'm not using my energy correctly at all. The celibacy, there is a power. There is definitely an absolute strength. And I'm going to talk about this from a male perspective. I don't really know about it from the female perspective. In some ancient texts, it does reference female as well. So it's not just about this, but I will talk specifically about this from the male perspective, that there is thought to be and understood to be, but in a mystical sense, I'd say there's thought to be power in the semen. And so when you literally, physically release that semen out, right, you are releasing all this energy. So if you talk about right use of energy, we're saying on an energetic level, we're thinking about the energy coming out to a release instead of building it up and literally taking that creative energy up through the spine, right? Up towards the pineal gland and, right? Bliss, rising that kundalini. So, but even on a physical level, there's this understanding of you understand that there's like, this is the life. This is the thing that creates this new life. So we're definitely going to put, okay, it's like, well, this body has done its thing or it's doing its thing or whatever, but we need to perpetuate this species. So we're going to put all the healthiest, strongest stuff and the life force into this fucking semen, into this seed to spread out, right? So there's understandings that if you don't ejaculate and you actually keep that in, and it might happen naturally in nature's time in your sleep or whatever, but if you don't do it, that it actually releases back into the bloodstream and you get this incredible surge. And a lot of saints and rishis talk about it, that there's like even a fragrance to certain saints that have taken that vow of celibacy and stuff like that. And that's incredibly powerful and it's incredibly beautiful. There's value in that. There's also levels of understanding that, right? Because it's not just one thing, because you might also go out of your fucking mind if you try to start doing that. If you've never done abstinence, if you're a male and you've never done it, female too, but again, I can only speak from experience as being a male, that it can be incredibly fucking difficult. I think the longest I've ever really gone was like a couple months, without ejaculating at all, But so I think it was like 60 days. I think it was somewhere right around there. But There's also an understanding of tantrically, understanding that energy is about just not releasing it. So it's not about, we get it down into the thoughts of sexuality and stuff like that. If the thought and the lust is bringing us down, if we think that we're getting some sense of wholeness and completeness, or that we need that, and then we're moving from a selfish space and we're looking to take and just to get an experience for ourselves, and it's just so completely one-sided, then that sort of lust and that sexuality is just going to drain the fuck out of you. And you're going to be spending, not only are you going to expend your energy in that ejaculation, but you're going to expend so much energy trying to get that. I mean, men spend their entire lives trying to get the girl. I mean, there's so much of everything that you do as a fucking man, if you haven't done this work and are aware of it, or I can't say just that's not the only way. Some people just have it naturally, but is really to some idea of like getting the girl, so you can get the hottest fucking girl. It's all about based on what other people think and what you're taught, and this primal understanding, which is beautiful. That primal thing is there, but when you're ruled by that, you're fucked, right? So a tantric sexuality, which I don't want to go into that too much, maybe I'll save that for another one, but lifting the energy up the spine, and basically learning to not ejaculate, learning to not just come to the end result, learning to actually wait even during the sexual act, learning to prolong it, learning to give, learning to touch and to move into our senses. So it's not just that these bodies are, that's where this aspect of this teaching comes in, that it's, the profanity, or the profane of the human body. You're out of your fucking mind. This life is to be lived. I'm sorry. You're going to ascend. And this is teachings for people who want these teachings. Other people be like, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Then it's not for you. Because maybe you're ascending and you're fucking, living as this body, just sitting here like this for 8 hours or 24 hours a day. And you're off gallivanting in some galactic plane. Sure, if that's your thing, you can go and do that. But that's not where I want to spend my energy. That's not my right use of energy. My right use of energy is to have that practice, that meditation practice in my life, and to raise my energy up, boom, take that place and take it out into the world and live this beautiful life. Be not afraid of the sensations. Be not ruled by them neither, right? So it's moving in a space that once we get to that understanding of that higher self, so that everything is in service to that higher self, that higher space, God, whatever you want to call it, right? So that the sexuality is, you can be practicing devotion. You can be practicing devotion to your partner. Again, I want to save that because there's definitely, it's so much, right? It's so much fun. But so let's get off of the sexuality thing. That's a whole nother time. We'll go into that. But understanding that it is definitely an aspect of it, but it's not so black and white, right? Just don't go spilling your freaking shit all over the place. Maybe learn some moderation and learn some balance, right? So really, when it comes down to right use of energy, let's get back into that. So right use of energy, 13 minutes or so far on just basically tantric sexuality, when I said it wasn't going to be about that. But the right use of energy, looking at in your life where we're not recognizing where we're losing so much of our energy, where we're wasting so much of our energy. I mean, blatant obvious ones are like complaining. If you need to complain, sure, I get it. Vent, get that stuff out, right? But understand that it's just your preferences. That's the raga and dvesha. That's the kleshas that we talked about, right? Understand to manage and know your raga and dvesha and not be ruled by them, right? Because it doesn't mean that I'm not going to fucking complain. Of course I'm going to complain. I'm going to complain my fucking ass off at times, right? But I understand that that's my mind wanting it a certain way, and that's actually the best place to look at where to start. I've said that before. Is like, look at your complaints. Look for your racket, right? So understanding that right use of energy, complaining is not going to do anything. It's actually expending all this energy on stuff that's not going to be productive. Same thing with worrying, right? And it's so hard. Like, I get this. This is so hard, but that's why this spirituality and work, this is also not just spiritual work. This is basically emotional work. We're not even getting to spiritual work yet. Like, this is really, it's, conduct becoming of Brahma, but it's Brahman, but we're not necessarily there, right? We're moving in that direction. And this is like the emotional work that really needs to get there, and this working down through the self and all this lower shit, right? So understanding that worry, your mind is going to fucking worry. And that's how it all bleeds into these other places. Your mind is going to worry because it's working in a sense of lack, that it doesn't have trust, it doesn't have faith, it doesn't think there's enough, and this is ridiculous. There's plenty. Action must be taken. We don't need the key, we'll break it. No, but action must be taken to get it, right? But understanding that when you start to operate from that mindset of abundance, then the action that you take is going to be different, right? If you're not reacting out of fear, which is that other klesha. So they start to all weave in together. So you can guide your energy in the right direction. What is the right energy for me today? What is the next best thing for me to be doing with my energy? Certainly not worrying, right? But, you know, there might be times when it's like, what is that? I don't know. Is it crying? Is it releasing? If you're crying all the time, maybe you're over crying. Is it overanalyzation? Is it important? It is important to look at yourself. Some people will be like, don't overanalyze. Yes, don't overanalyze. But it's definitely important to look at yourself. And then some people will say, no, just devote everything to God. All right, in this sense of like bhakti and complete devotion, and everything else will drop off. Sure, if that works for you, I think that's a cop-out. For me personally, that's not what I teach. I teach all these different aspects coming in, so we have to figure out where our energy needs to go for that day. If I need to develop devotion that day, then maybe I get in some tantric sexuality, or maybe I go to praise at a church or something like that, or I go to a freaking kirtan, right? Or I just pray and surrender to God. But understanding, so what is going to be most beneficial today? What is it that we need? What is the solution based on the problem? You don't want to treat a mental problem with an emotional solution, or a spiritual problem with a mental solution, right? To understand where the problem lies and then work out of it from a perspective of solution based in that area. So that's why we need to know ourselves and to dig down into the stuff to know where to direct our energy, right? So when we get into layers of it, I like to talk about it practically on the mat. It's very simple as a physical practice of yoga, to where we are expending energy that is not necessary. And this is why you guys, if you're in my classes, which a lot of you are, then there's, you know, I'm always talking about soften the jaw, release the jaw and the tongue, and not be like holding up here. It's the strongest muscle in the body. Strongest muscle in the body. We hold so much stuff up here. So where are you in your shoulders in Warrior 2 is another big one, or like where in a lot of poses in your shoulders. We are using so much energy that is such a waste of energy that we don't need, because it's an improper use of energy. But we're not aware of it. So because we're not aware of where we're leaking our energy. And that's where we really need to start becoming aware, is where are we directing our energy? Where are we directing our thoughts? So thoughts are energy, right? It's not fucking some mystical shit. There's electricity pumping through your body and your entire nervous system. A synapse fires, you know, the neural pathways happen. It's all energy. It's very, very scientifically energy and metered as such, right? And measured as such. So understanding that the right use of energy is learning how to point our energy and our mindset and our thoughts in a particular direction. Right? That's why I say if we're ruled by lust, and this idea that that's going to be the solution for us, it's really because we're not looking at other stuff. We're not looking at that wholeness and completeness, or whatever it is that we are hiding from, and our energy goes somewhere else to divert us from that. We're running from our pain. We spend so much energy. We spend most of our lives running from our pain, right? And pain is the touchstone to spiritual growth. So understanding how to direct our energy in better places. And sir, if you want to get, you know, into the physical practice and understand the flow of the energy, you know, up and down through the spine. Again, I'm not going to get into too much tantric stuff, but understanding the energy of the energetic bodies, right? Even through the chakras, up and down. So manifesting down, liberation up, right? And flowing through the chakras with the breath work can be so powerful. The right use of the energy within the bodies, within the pranamaya kosha, within the energy body, kind of, and understanding how that's flowing even in our practice. You know, I talk about as you exhale, understanding the different values too through the body, the prana in the body, and where that energy is flowing. You know, here up, here down, out through every single cell in the body. So when you're in triangle pose, grounding that energy down through the root, lengthening it out up through the spine, lengthening it out through every fingertip, right? And it's really powerful practice that you can get into understanding the chi or the ki or the prana or whatever it is you want to call it, whichever modality you're working in, with this understanding of that energy in the body and how to actually work with the energies of the body, right? Like iron shirt, qigong. If you know, when you moving that energy into the spleen, and it's first it seems just like imagination, but it's understanding these energies and how to work with these healing energies in the body, into like working into like Reiki, you know, and understanding that God energy, and understanding the power that we have through our hands and things like that, and using that actual that's physical energy, right? And that is something that is all related to thoughts. It's all related, right? So if we start thinking about it, we start to feel it, we start to use it, we start to bring it into this world, into manifesting. So it's a powerful understanding to look at in your life, where are you using your energy? I'm sorry, I feel like I was a little scattered today. I feel like my energy was a little scattered. But to look at, even when you move out into your life, to not, one big thing I want to talk about before I finish another 20-minute vlog is understanding where we might be using our energy in the world to control others, right? Or to manipulate others, right? And that's where the energy in the spiritual practice and the yogic practice particularly is like that the energy starts to move inward, that we take the limited amount of energy that we are aware of and we start to turn that inward so that we can work down through our stuff, so we can find that limitless source of energy. And when we tap into that, the limits are endless. The possibilities are endless. It's not just about the options, it's about those possibilities. And this is real simple stuff here. It's, you know, might be heady. I don't know how it sounds to you guys, but when you start to work with these principles on a daily basis in your life, you'll absolutely see fucking transformation in a slow, steady rate, right? And if you actually work with them regularly, it won't be so slow and steady. It might seem slow and steady, but that's because you're just fucking impatient. Talking to you, Josh. Talking to you, Josh. So looking out as you go into the world today, you know, how you're using your energy, just being aware. That's what it all is about, heightening our awareness to where we're expending our energy. And it's not, that might not be bringing us up into the highest space in our lives, right? The thought processes that we're having that are not elevating us, these ideas and these concepts that we have about the way the world should be or the way other people should behave, instead of looking at how our behavior and how our energies are being wasted. Also making sure you don't allow other people to drain your energy, because that's really what it is when you allow them to get you pissed off and angry. And it happens, I understand. So it's not about, you know, shaming that at all. Shame is a huge waste of energy, but you've got to work through it if you're not aware that you have the shame. But it's to understand that when you do get angry at other people, it's really just them emotionally manipulating you and psychically taking your energy, right? It can be very empowering, but you've got to watch out for that anger stuff and think, because it's basically not an unacceptance at the way the world is. So I think that's enough on the right use of energy. If you're gonna fuck right. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And that is really powerful, though, when you start to see sex as a means of connection and love and elevating between the two partners and giving. Dude and dudette, your life will completely transform when it all becomes about God, when it all becomes about elevating. Take that energy and use it to elevate. In Lakesha Lakin, I am you, you are me. Namaste.
What? Too much?